Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're out at the range to do some shooting with the Langdon Tactical Technologies Beretta Model 92. This is a semi-custom handgun, and we're going to call Langdon Tactical LTT going forward so I don't get tongue-tied too often. But LTT started working with Beretta to develop the semi-custom handgun, and we'll delve into the specifics of this handgun here momentarily. What we want to do in this video is do some shooting with this gun, get an idea of how it shoots, and get a feel for how it shoots, and share our thoughts with you guys. But we also want to talk about the two pistols that were kind of blended together to come up with this handgun, and then we got a special treat for you guys from World War II, but we'll delve into that here in a minute as well. But let's start off shooting the LTT semi-custom pistol. It's just a standard 9mm handgun with a lot of customizations. We're going to go ahead and stick some Federal ball. This is just some American Eagle ammunition. So we also brought out some Syntech ammo, which is range ammo from Federal. We'd like to thank the guys from Federal who do send us the ammunition for free here at the channel. But if you'd like to purchase some for yourself, there is a link down below to LAX ammunition. There's not a link, but a discount code that you can use. We can't post links because YouTube doesn't like you exercising your Second Amendment rights. But anyway, use that code to get a discount over at LAX ammunition. So I'm gonna go ahead and load the pistol up, chamber around, and I'm going to drop the hammer, but as soon as I release the safety, notice how it springs back. We'll talk about that feature here in a moment. And now we're going to light Mr. Dummy up with some 124 grain ball rounds. As you can see, this pistol shoots really well. The rubber dummy is just over 7 yards away, and the gun shoots really, really nicely. But let's talk about some of the features of this LTT pistol, but let's also show you the two handguns that influenced its ultimate final design. One of the most distinctive features of the Model 92 or the M9 service pistol is this open slide design. Now, Beretta tells you that they developed this to improve reliability of the handgun by not having steel up here. Supposedly, it makes it less likely for the gun to stovepipe or have some other type of malfunction. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But regardless, what we have is this very distinctive open top design, which many of us, myself included, think that makes the gun look really, really sexy. And when LTT put that stainless steel barrel in there, that really makes that open slide pop. But the open slide design came about early in the 20th century, around 1915. Beretta developed a handgun for the Italian forces for World War I, and it was the model of 1915. And that was the first time we saw that signature open top slide design. I don't have one of those pistols to show you, but what I do have is a World War II production handgun, the model of 1935, which carried on that tradition of that open top design. This is a holster from World War Supply, and I pick a lot of reproduction holsters up from those guys. They make absolutely flawless reproductions of classic military holsters and slings and web gear and things like that. So this is a standard reproduction of a flap holster that would have been used during World War II to keep this little pistol at the shooter's side and ready to go. Now, this one is chambered at a 7.65 Browning, but there you can see that signature open slide, open top design. This is a single action only pistol. It doesn't have double action functionality like the Model 92 or the LTT pistol, but you can see the lineage there clearly. You have that front sight machined into the front of the slide there. You have a dovetail with just a regular V-notch in the back. But this is a 1944 war-produced handgun, and we'll shoot it here for you guys just for a little bit of fun. Holds 8 rounds of the 32 ACP/7.65 Browning. And as I mentioned, this one is a single action only. There's no decock safety on it. If you want to put the hammer down, you have to thumb it down, but then you have to cock it to fire it. But these are really pleasant little handguns to shoot. They have very little recoil, and like I said, are just a lot of fun. Right in the same group there on the rubber dummy. But yeah, it locks open on the last shot fired, but like many handguns of the era, when you take the magazine out, that slide snaps home. All right, now that we've strolled down memory lane and took a look at this World War II era model 1935, let's take a look at a couple of other Berettas that influenced the LTT's design. On the table in front of me, I have the LTT pistol. We have an M9A1 and an M9A3. The M9A3 is the handgun I think should have been our next military service pistol, but that's an entirely different discussion. But the LTT design borrows features from both of these handguns and then of course adds some of its own. So let's talk about the M9A1. If you take a look at the LTT and the M9A1, you're going to notice that the frames are the same. You have this squared off front trigger guard, you have an accessory rail, and then the grip contour, how it's arched here in the back, is the same. So it's basically an M9A1 frame assembly on the LTT pistol, but they've done some customizations to it that make it a little bit different than the standard M9A1 lower. So let's talk about some of those differences. Now, as I already mentioned, we have the accessory rail out here in the front, but the trigger guard is more squared off in the front. This one has a very slight radius added to it. Now, they're talking about the trigger guard having a radius to it, and I'm looking for the differences, and I'll see if you guys can see anything else other than this is ever so slightly beveled. It's not a sharp edge anymore. There's a point here on the trigger guard on the M9A1 that is not present on the LTT pistol. You can see that over here by this index finger. So you can see that the M9A1 has a more squared off front strap than the LTT, and then a slight difference by the magazine release. And that's the only real difference I can see. When I read that they had a radiused trigger guard, I was thinking maybe they cut this a little bit more deeply, and maybe they have, but I can't see the difference. The gun feels the same to me as the M9A1. So if there is a radius underneath here, it's very, very subtle. Feels like possibly there is one, but it's very, very subtle. But the checkering is the same as the M9A1. You have checkering here in the back, and you have checkering here in the front. This handgun has VZ G10 grips, which are custom for LTT. They were made just for them. And they have kind of they're not flat. They have a diamond checkering pattern for texture, but they're raised here, it kind of dips down here and raises back up by the hex grip screws. So it makes the gun feel more narrow and less bulky than the standard M9 or M9A1. So if you have smaller hands, you're probably going to like this grip frame. Another thing that they did was to bevel the magazine well here for easier reloads. And you'll notice this plug right here. This plug is where a lanyard loop once sat. There's no lanyard loop. So that may facilitate faster reloads. I don't know, but it's nice that it's gone. There's no real need for a lanyard loop. I've never used a lanyard my entire life, so it being deleted isn't a bad thing. So with that being in there, we have a D model spring inside of here. It has a D hammer spring inside. And then that's pretty much it for the lower assembly. Then we start talking about the upper assembly, and that's where the M9A3 comes into play. So the LTT pistol uses an M9A1 lower and an M9A3 upper. And by watching LTT's video on YouTube, one of the primary reasons they decided to go with this was because it has a dovetail cut in the front. If you take a look at a standard M9 or M9A1, that front sight is machined into the slide. So it's not adjustable, nor is it replaceable without a gunsmith. So they wanted that M9A3 slide for that dovetail, which you can see on the M9A3. So now we have dovetailed front and rear sights. And we'll start at the front of the pistol and work our way back. So to the standard M9A3 slide, they put front slide serrations that mimic the factory slide serrations back here, so they have the same cut to them. We have a fiber optic front sight, a stainless steel 4.7-inch barrel that has a target crown cut into it. And then back here, this is one of my favorite features. We have the Beretta Ambi safety, but this is a G model safety. Now it's convertible back to its standard configuration, where on the M9, if you cock the pistol and activate the safety, it drops the hammer, but it keeps the gun in the safe position, making the gun safe. If you pull the trigger, nothing happens until you return it to the fire position. With the G model, you can, when the pistol is cocked and loaded, you release the hammer with the safety, then as soon as you release the safety, it springs back to the fire position. So there is no manual safety on the LTT pistol. That's called a G model. Again, it can be reversed and you can put the hammer drop and manual safety back in it if you really want that feature. Me personally, I don't want a safety on a handgun. The decocker is all I want, so I really like that feature on this pistol. Now, one other thing as we're coming back, I should point out, the M9A1 and M9 current production guns have polymer triggers and polymer guide rods. You're going to find on the LTT pistol that the guide rod is metal and the trigger is stainless steel. So those would be upgrades. And then there's action job done to the gun as well, which works in conjunction with that D spring that's in the mainspring housing here in the grip. Coming back, we have a skeletonized hammer. And then for the rear sight, which is dovetailed, we have a deep square V-notch with serrations on the back with that fiber optic front sight. It gives a very nice, clean sight picture in daylight conditions. Now, there is no tritium in these sights, so at nighttime, you're going to have to rely on a flashlight. Fortunately, you can do that because this handgun does have a light rail, so you can put your favorite light on the LTT pistol. So overall, the gun feels very good in the hand. One other modification they made to the slide. So if you have big meaty hands and you have a lot of meat that rides up here, some folks may get slide bite from the Beretta. The LTT guys beveled this edge right here ever so slightly. So it comes back and then it's kind of beveled at this angle and smoothed out. So if the slide does come back and hit a little bit of meat on your hand, it's not going to take a bite out of it. Now, I don't have that problem. The Beretta gives me plenty of clearance, so I don't need that radiused rear. But if you have real meaty hands, that might be a feature that you might seek out on the LTT pistol. This handgun was sent to us by LTT for testing and evaluation. I know that Grand Thumb has one because I've seen some of his social media posts. So I'm kind of curious what he has to say about it. This is a semi-custom handgun. This would be competing against handguns like the Wilson Combat, which comes to market at about $11.99. This one comes to market at $9.99, so it's $200 less expensive than the Wilson Combat, but you're getting a highly customized handgun that's going to give you similar performance. I really like the way this handgun feels and shoots, and it being $200 less expensive than the Wilson, it seems like a very solid option to save a couple $100 and get a really solid semi-custom Beretta Model 92. Let's do some more shooting with the LTT pistol. In shooting the LTT pistol, I've really come to appreciate the profile of these VZ G10 grips. It may not look like it, but these grips really make the gun feel noticeably more narrow. When I'm shooting the M9A1 or even the M9A3, which has a flat back strap here, they still feel thicker. The M9A3 feels better in my hand than the A1, but this feels better than both of them. It gives me a very positive grip on the gun. It almost feels like it's setting deeper in the hand. So the gun is just a real pleasure to shoot. Now the gun does come with 3 magazines in the box, and it comes in a standard Beretta factory box, and this is the magazine you will receive. It's cut, you'll note, for earlier heel release Beretta 9mm handguns. So if you got an old 92 sitting around that's heel release, the magazines that came with my LTT have that cut. So I'm going to do some more shooting here on the rubber dummy with some of the Federal Syntech 9mm. And I absolutely love this sight picture. Flawless function with this pistol. Very, very smooth feeling. You will note that the barrel is slightly shorter than the standard M9. It's just sticking out a little bit past the end of the slide. You get a little bit more barrel sticking out on a standard M9 pistol. That front sight is really, really easy to pick up. It looks like a big, bright red dot. And it's really easy to aim quickly with it using that front sight. And I was riding the slide stop with my thumb like that and didn't lock open. I do that occasionally with the M9 as well. But overall, guys, this thing is a shooting machine. I really, really like the way this handgun feels. We're going to do a quick field strip. You've probably seen the M9 or the Model 92 field stripped a million times before, so we'll do this quickly. But I also want to point out one of the reasons why I really like the Model 92 before we get into the field strip. The Model 92 does not use a Browning action. It uses a locking block that drops up and down. That locking block is a very low mass. The heavier mass, the barrel itself, moves rearward in a straight line, where a Browning action takes the entire mass of the barrel and drops it down, and then as it rechambers the next round, it pops it back up. That lends itself to more gun movement because you have more mass moving up and down. With the Beretta, you have a very simple locking block, and when the gun cycles, that barrel moves straight back. See how the barrel's moving straight back? In line with your hand. And that contributes to the very pleasant shooting nature of the handgun. So let's go ahead and field strip it, and I'll show you that locking block here really quickly, which you've probably already seen before. First, we're going to make sure that the weapon's empty, so we have no magazine in the gun. I'm going to go ahead and lock it open, check the chamber, make sure that the chamber's clear. Now with all the 92s, it does have a loaded chamber indicator, which is your extractor. If the gun has been kept clean, when its load round is in there, the extractor will pop out a little bit and you'll see a tiny little red bar. When the gun gets dirty, you won't see anything. All right, so the weapon's clear. I'm going to go ahead and let the slide go home. There's a button right here by my index finger. I'm going to push that button in, and at the same time, I'm going to rotate this disassembly lever down. So I push the button in, rotate this disassembly lever down, and the slide starts to move off the frame. Pull the two apart, and now you have the gun and its two major components. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and set the frame aside. You don't need to do any more field stripping to that. Inside, you're gonna see a recoil spring and guide rod. Go ahead and push forward, take that out. Be careful, it is under spring pressure, and it is not a captive spring. Set that aside, And now there's a little tiny button in here on the rear of the barrel. I'm going to push forward on that with my finger. That releases the barrel and locking block from the recess, and you can take them out and set the slide aside. You don't need to take that apart any further. And so here's that locking block that I was telling you about. This is what locks the gun into battery. So this is the locked position, and when the gun fires, this little block unlocks from cuts in the slide and allows the barrel to move rearward ever so slightly. And this little pin right here is what pushes that locking block down. So there's a part of the frame here, as it starts to recoil, the frame pushes the locking block down, and then the slide moves freely rearward, comes back into battery, and then pushes the locking block back up. So it's a very simple mechanism which lends itself to a very pleasant shooting handgun. To reassemble it after you clean it, take your slide, drop your barrel in, go ahead and move the barrel back, push the locking block down, put your spring and guide rod in, and set it on the perch right there like that. And now you're just going to take your slide and frame, mate the two up, make sure that that's in the right position, pull it rearward, and when you're pulling it rearward, you're going to flip this lever in the up position this way, okay? So I'm going to pull the slide rearward, flip that little lever up, and the gun is now back together. Decock it, it's safe and ready to shoot again. We've had a good time out here this afternoon shooting the LTT Model 92 pistol that they made or are making in conjunction with Beretta USA. The serial number has an LTT prefix on the frame. Overall, the fit and finish looks like pretty much a standard Beretta finish, but the fit is amazing. But I've never found a problem with the fit of a standard Model 92 of any variation. The stainless steel barrel is sharp looking. I like the fact that I have a steel guide rod versus the polymer that's being shipped with most of the 92s these days. It also has a stainless steel trigger versus a polymer trigger. I know some of you guys don't care if it does or doesn't have a polymer trigger, but I will say the trigger in this definitely feels better. When they switched the polymer triggers on the 92s, I could feel the difference in the trigger pull. It's subtle, it's minute, but for me, it's there. That stainless steel trigger is a nice touch. And then the sights and the grips just kind of round out the package and make it for a very nice shooting, semi-custom 92 Beretta. So if you guys are in the market for something and you want to save a few $100 over the Wilson Combat, now in all fairness, I've not shot the Wilson Combat pistols, but if you want to save a couple $100 to get a semi-custom Model 92, this is a very nice pistol. Guys, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best way to do that is to click the link down below and become a Patreon supporter. We have a brand new buyers club where we drop ship copper, drop ships firearms and accessories directly to your dealer or to you, depending on if it's a firearm or not, and that comes with a squad leader or above membership. So consider joining the Patreon club by the link down below and supporting us here at the channel. Also, we do have a t-shirt store from Forge from Freedom, and that link is down below as well, so you can pick up a t-shirt, a hoodie, a sweater, and that directly supports us here at the channel. Also, be sure to check out coppercustom.com, and we are Twitch gamers, so if you like to see us playing Battlefield 5, Battlefield 4, World of Tanks, things like that, there is a link down below to our Twitch channel. Jump over there, check it out, give us a follow, and watch us do some gaming. And if you're a Patreon, send me a note, and you can join us in some of the live streams while we game. Guys, thanks for 11 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon. What an amazingly controllable handgun. Look at the center of that target, guys. That's where we've been shooting all afternoon. And it's just chewing the center out of that rubber dummy. What a nice shooting handgun.